Hello, kitty cats. Sorry, hello? What the hell's that? Hi, kitty cats. I was on a panel last week. I also have a big, huge echo. All right, there we go. My goodness, why do I still have an echo? I don't know. Now I'm trying to figure it out, and it's not going well. I'm going to do this for now. All right. Hi, kitty cats. I was on a panel last week that triggered thoughts around community and why we need it. Maybe you've already seen a couple of comments that Margie made in the comment there. But it triggered thoughts around community and why we need it, and really probably more specifically why I personally need community, because actually I have a big announcement around that. I don't know how big, but I have an announcement around community. I also have a guest tonight whom we met, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks back, I think. Her name is Emma. You have also seen her as TrippyBit99. I thought it was Trippy Frog, but I think that maybe that changed. Anyway, her name is Emma. We're going to talk about the younger, gender diverse community. Should be fun. And then finally, maybe we'll jump back into the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. Since I'm streaming vertically today, I'm not sure how well that'll work, but, I'll ask your opinion later. Point is, please stick around. We have some good, I think, thoughtful entertainment for you tonight. All right, so let me say hello to a few people first of all. So I think I got Emma. Hello to Genevieve. Margie corrected me on my pronunciation, Genevieve. Margie is here. Hello, Margie. And I think that's everybody for now. I am... Oh, there we go. Look, there's Emma. I am Dr. Amethysta Herrick. I am both an author and a podcaster who discusses identity and gender from a scientific standpoint. You can check this link below that you'll see down there for more information about me and the work that I do. My website, as you can see, is purplepawclan.com, and you can go there and you can follow me on all the social media networks that I'm on. You can also read articles that I've written. You can also view the podcasts that I produce. And if you like this content, and I have no reason to believe you shouldn't, please consider subscribing down there at purplepawclan.com, because you can get a subscription for as low as $5 a month. Or what you can also do is just sign up for the free newsletter. I have one coming out actually tonight. And so you can read that. So just to keep up with what's going on, with what I'm doing, and hopefully, how all this, how the community comes together. I will also publish articles and podcasts by other contributors, and if you're interested in contributing your original work, and it does have to be original, about identity and gender, I certainly encourage you to email me through the contact page. Once again, that's that website, purplepawclan.com. All right, before we get to Emma, and it's going to be grand, I want to talk about, I have a little bit of an intro bit to do here. So let's see, this past Friday, well, first of all, let me, it's, so Blessings of the Dark Moon, I'm wearing my moon phase shirt there. So blessings of the dark moon to y'all. It's now time to think about what you need to change, what you need to build, and then get that moving as we head toward the full moon, which will be an amazing time. All right, so I was on a panel. I was asked to contribute to a panel last Friday. And that was actually, it was with Amethyst May. If you were around last Thursday, I played a game, I streamed a game with Amethyst May, and it was Palia. I don't know if it was an open sort of a multi, is like an MMO, cozy MMO kind of thing. In this panel, we talked about niches. And so if you don't know what a niche is is a way to constrain the content that we create to specific topics, and this is particular to content creators. So for instance, I talk about identity and gender. I like to think anyway that I'm intelligent and funny, and in particular I really want to provide a space where people feel comfortable coming as they are, and maybe even learn something at the same time. So there were 3 other panelists. All 3 of them had like 100% different niches. One was a cosplayer. I think all three of them also streamed video games typically. Some of them would just engage in like an open community type chat where you know, hey, how are you doing? How are you doing? I'm fine. Two of them were actually VTubers. So they were faceless. They used models. They were like avatars, right? When that could respond, I guess, with a camera. I'm not really sure how it works. But they were VTubers. Kind of neat. So there were two questions that came up, and this is what I was going to talk about prior to bringing Emma on. There were two questions that came up during the panel that I want to revisit. One of them we can get a chance to talk about, which was, would you rather, and I'm quoting here, I actually pulled it from the pulled it from the sheet. Would you rather have a massive general audience or a small loyal niche? Now there's a reason that I'm going in this order. The other one was, how do you handle burnout when your niche becomes work instead of fun? So I want to talk about the size of an audience and then get to burnout. And then, like I said, we'll finally bring in Emma and it'll be a grand time. Let's see, so the question, let me check some comments here. Spoopy dress. I learned the word spoopy from a friend of mine. And it was, a couple of years ago, we did some Halloween thing in Final Fantasy. And it was like, ooh, that's spoopy. And I was like, spoopy. And then he used it a few other times. And I was like, oh, that's on purpose. I thought it was a joke. I mean, it is a joke, but I thought it was just a typo. Spoopy. I love that because you can also, you can draw it out. See, spooky, it's less than a P, right? That's a good plosive. You go, spoopy. The end. All right. Here's a question. Do you remember when I said intelligent and funny? That was supposed to be the funny part. So here's the question. Would you rather have a massive general audience or a small loyal niche? I won't keep you in suspense. My answer is a small loyal niche. I have more to say about that. I think everybody, hello Hilda, I think that everybody, okay, wow, thanks man. Oh shoot, I forgot to turn the comments back on. It's a bummer because now we're going to have this guy's ugly comments on it. Everybody, for the most part, would like to be famous. Right, we think about it. We go, oh, I'd love to be famous. Like even if you're shy and introverted, you go, oh yeah, I'd love to be famous. In fact, I would say, I used to think, I'm not sure if it's true, I certainly used to think that being famous or getting famous, whatever it was, achieving being famous might help me get over being shy and introverted. Unfortunately, none of us actually knows what it would feel like to be famous unless and until we are. And I'm not. Like I haven't been to a restaurant and had somebody go, "Oh, you're that one purple hair bint that, yeah, totally." I mean, I've had a few passing like, "Oh yeah, I've seen your stuff," or "I've seen your name." I got one today, but like literally a handful, maybe 3. So like part of me goes, gosh, you're so much fun, GT. Is this your whole life? Do you spend your whole life doing this? It's awful. But I think about what it would be like actually to have a massive audience. And I think of like a couple of people. Brene Brown is one. Brene Brown, who is a psychologist, and she talks about, a lot of things, but she talks about how to maintain at least your own sanity in the world here. Anyway, she goes on social media and she's always dropping like profound thoughts that like, oh, you can't. Oh my goodness. I wonder where this guy is. Maybe on Twitch. Wow. What a shame. Thank you, Margie, for telling me that. Well, I didn't have Jesus. Can I just block you altogether? Let's see if that works. Anyway, Brene Brown always dropping profound thoughts that like a million people, love. A million people are like, dang, that was a profound thought. I think also of like Gary Vaynerchuk. Vaynerchuk. Oh, you are? Wow, aren't you fun? I'll just report you now for hate speech and graphic violence. You've had a lot. You've been a lot of fun. You've been swell, GT. But trust me, the swelling went down. All right. Gary Vaynerchuk, who has these huge interviews about leadership that they get a bajillion views, right? People go, dang, that was another profound thought. Boy, am I glad I'm subscribed both to Brene Brown and Gary Vaynerchuk. And then I actually saw this. This was totally unrelated, but I saw a blog post by somebody named Benabel Wen. She is an author of both tarot and other esoteric content, and she responded to somebody once. She responded to somebody very recently, and she said it was a response to a video that Belle had seen, okay, who lamented that her idols never answered her comments. And Belle said, yeah, that's what happens when you're big. You can't respond to all the comments. And she goes on to describe what I believe was a very transactional kind of approach to content creation. And I imagine this is where you have to be when you have a massive audience. It's a very transactional sort of idea on, when you create content, can you engage with people? Can you not? So when I started down the road of content creation, thank you, Margie, by the way, my friend Bill sent me a blog post by a guy named Kevin Kelly. And Kevin Kelly, the purpose of his blog, it's like kk.org, I think. It's called Speculations on the Future of Science. That's his blog, sorry. The blog post that Bill sent me was called 1,000 True Fans. And what Kelly says is that you can make a living as an author, as like a content creator, so like a writer is what he was thinking, if you have only 1,000 true fans. But true fan, in Kelly's definition, means somebody who will buy everything you put out. And he talks about books or maybe comics or like a course that you might put on or, webinar or something. He talked about mostly physical type items. Now, video streaming is obviously quite a bit different. There are some platforms that offer gifts in streams, and some of you have done that, and that's been jamming. I have channel memberships actually enabled here on YouTube, but often we get paid for views. That's really the thing. We get paid for views. So if you have a true fan, that's somebody who likes and subscribes and shares and comments and whatever else you can do on those streaming platforms. So it might not even be financial support because there may not be any way to do it. It may just be moral support. And I don't want to say just because that's as somebody said, as Rowan Pretorius has put it, it's boring beyond belief. So let's talk about something else. What I'd really prefer, the reason why I would actually kind of prefer not a massive audience and rather a hardcore niche audience is because I'd rather redefine what fan means. Since the beginning, there's no doubt I've wanted to get paid, and I kind of wanted to be famous because that seems like the way to be paid. But that panel made me think about things much more clearly. I want to find people who really get me. The igneous flame is not one of those people. I want to find people who would be friends with me and hang out with me if we lived near each other. People who would hang out with me in person. And believe me, igneous flame, you're not one of those people. It's a bummer that you have this many accounts that you can write this and you have like a macro or something. I mean, I almost want to say well done that you can be that disruptive in one live stream. Hi, Frybird. I'm thinking about people like Frybird. I'm thinking about people like Margie and Morgan, Genevieve, Ms. Lewis, obviously, whom I found on, whom I met actually in Atlanta. I just saw this. Margie says she's both famous. What was that? Famous and in. That's why she's the infamous Margie Fancy Pants. Yeah. So here's the thing. I think of this ultimately as like 1,000 true friends. Like if you really get me, you'll do the things that might end up as financial support, but you'll also do other things. Oh, hello, Willow. And Willow says she'd love to hang out with me. Thank you. Oh, that's... See, I think it would be fun, right? I mean, the people I think who get me would do those kinds of things. They'd want to hang out with me, whatever. I think they'll also provide critical feedback when I need it, because I do. But I think they'll also provide support when I need it, because I'm just going to come flat. I'm going to get a little raw for you for a moment here. Because I struggle with that. I really struggle with accepting support. So let me actually move on to this point about burnout, because this is the point. This is one of the other major issues here. The question. The question again was now here. How do you handle burnout when your niche becomes work instead of fun? I'm going to tell you. Baby, I like it raw is what Frybird said. There you go. This will happen in any job. It makes no difference how much you love your job. There will be aspects that just have to be done. You know, I love these live streams. I do. So I'm not really so having fun with Igneous Flame here, but I love these live streams. But I have to come up with topics. I have to come up with guests. I have to make images and titles for these, which is actually more difficult than you might think. Sometimes I've had to edit videos. I've had to learn about lighting, my 3-point lighting, the sound, my microphone here, camera, and video formats and everything, to be capable of doing this. Ultimately, and then you have to develop a style. So, hey, Emerson, you'll be next week's guest. I'd love you to come in, Frybird. Let's do it. You'll take... Frybird says she'll think about it when she takes me over to my house. Takes Willow over to my house. Funny. So last time I burned out, maybe you remember this. It was end of May, I think it was. And this is what I said in the panel, even, thinking this was great. I'm like, well, basically what I did is I hid for a week in the basement. I kept my head between my knees and sobbed uncontrollably and then questioned my life decisions. And then after a week, I came back out and I started making content again. And at the time I was like, well, that's cool. So Tanya asks, what's my niche or passion? My niche is scientific explanations of identity and gender. That's what I do, Tanya. Thank you for asking. I thought this was a great, and I love birds. I'm unsure about that part, Frybird, but I thought this was kind of a mature answer, right? Because I'm like, listen, I didn't bother anybody with it, but it's not the best response. Although that's what a lot of us do, because we get into doom scrolling, which leads to isolation. It might lead to substance abuse. Anyway, the other three all mentioned community. All three of them said, their community mods help them realize they're burning out. Their community mods help them relieve stress. One of them said she could have a game night with her mods, and that picked her right back up. Maybe some of them handle administrative tasks when the creators, feeling stressed out. Maybe, help the creator rest and recharge. Thank you so much, Fugu the Fish. I am actually going to just pop this up because it'll actually go over extracting fun. My good, how many accounts does this person have? I'm really stunned. Anyway, here's the point. How to handle burnout. If you put those two together, Margie, thank you. So here's the point. Here's the point of my the next little segment. I wanted to put the two together. I would like to have 1,000 true friends, every one of you, and I know, possibly not extracting fun 1,000, and I know you have a group of people in a community, I don't care how many people, they can support each other, right? I mentioned in June or July when I came back, Willow, okay, have a great mindfulness meeting. Love you back. I talked about shifting my content because I was talking about how I was absolutely tired of trying to educate people who really weren't interested in learning. You know, there's one guy here who proves over and over he's not interested. He doesn't want to have a conversation. He doesn't want to figure out, you know, where his hate comes from. He just doesn't want that. He just wants to express his hate. And here's the thing. And see, Emerson's made a great point. Emerson Fox here has made a great point saying she doesn't know if she would have survived this past year without her online community. Yes. And the thing is, you have something like Fugu the Fish says, extracting fun, more like generating hate. Zing! What I wanted to do, instead of debating people about science, debating people who aren't capable who aren't qualified to debate science, I wanted to mitigate the consequences of this type of behavior. This type of behavior on the queer community is just devastating. Emerson has mentioned it. You know, Margie knows that very well. Looks like Fugu the Fish gets the point here. So this was the little announcement I was going to make. And then I swear when I'm done, we'll bring Emma on. I've been now discussing with various people about making a new Discord server, ultimately for the Purple Paw community. I'm so nervous about talking about this. Like I'm feeling my skin crawl. I'm very nervous about talking about this. A new Discord server for the Purple Paw clan. That is the name of the company. See, you can see down there. Right now, I'm telling you, we're in planning. So Frybird, so this is great. We're in planning. If you'd like to help plan, and Frybird says yes, send me an email, send me a DM, reach out on Discord. Frybird can reach me on like 3 other platforms. If you want to reach out to me, you know, I'm on Discord. My handle is just Amethysta. There's only one. There can be only one. It's kind of like the Highlander, only like anyway, Purplander. That works. I'll run with that. And I guess I want to say, let's make something that supports us all. You know, I have tried as much as I can to support as many of you as I can. And I have not asked for anything back. I have not asked, I have not hoped for anything back. And so I would like to make something, a community that ends up supporting us all, me and you. I'm not kidding you. I think our target is probably no sooner than a month, because we want to plan this. And then we want to do it as right as possible the first time. Now, we'll guarantee that's not going to happen, right? It never does. No matter what plans you make, it doesn't work out exactly. But we're hoping to plan this first, and then we move forward. I like to think of this as from the wild dreams that I had, 3 years ago now, because it's actually going to be November 1st. I've been doing this now for 3 years. From my wild dreams 3 years ago to the content niche that I've been representing to community. So Frybird, I bet you're a heck of an admin. So let's all talk about this. That was actually all I had to say. The comic bit here is that actually Emma has dropped in and out of the thing over and over again. So hopefully she gets back here. But so Fugu is you are transgender. Is this what you're saying? That's good. I'm glad we met. Absolutely, I'm super happy for that. Scooberman says, I am mentally ill and a man. Apparently you're incapable of looking very well. I am curious, though, because you must be one amazing psychologist. Truly, one amazing psychologist. Like to diagnose me over like a live stream. You need to take that show on the road. You also should probably be like counting cards in Las Vegas and like pulling rabbits out of your ear or something like that, whatever else. Peter M says being transgender is not good. Okay. Not good. I mean, there's a subjective, comment there. I'm not even sure what this is. Still can't be silenced and they hate it. What the hell is even that? Okay, I got an ooh. This is awesome. Yeah, Fugu can definitely be a deadly fish, isn't it? Frybird says that the purple hair is in the DSM-5. See, that's pretty cool. It totally is. It's actually, if it becomes dysfunctional, and for some people it can, you're just thinking over and over, I've got to make my hair purple. Purple hair syndrome. But yes, so Margie has said that if you're interested in working on this Discord server, again, there's a temporary planning server, and of course, reach out to me. All right, here's somebody. Let me see. You know what? Here's somebody who actually is typing stuff. So let's see. It doesn't take a psychologist to understand when someone can't fathom themselves that they're broken inside. You were born away. You should have stayed that way. Fighting reality isn't the path. You know what? You're probably going to be silenced, but here's the point. When we are born, right, we are, tabula rasa, let's say, we'll use a little bit of Latin there because dang it, I'm going to end up, Margie's going to give some Latin here. So here we go. Forever Green has come in and she says, hello, I'm just here to raise the collective IQ of this comment section. Yeah, it's pretty ugly. It's pretty interesting how this is happening. But so when we're born, like our hair grows, we grow taller, we learn things. The idea of saying that you're born away and you have to stay that way is ridiculous. That's not what you've done in your life. Presumably you started kindergarten. Presumably you passed kindergarten, although I'm going to tell you, some of your comments have not seemed that way. It's not fighting reality. What you're doing, the reality is we evolve. That's fine. Fugu the fish is actually a cis male. I love that. I understand where you're coming from. You're saying that I'm doing something wrong, but what I'm doing wrong is that I'm expressing myself in a way that you actually don't want me to express myself. If I were to say, listen, I don't like your sneakers, it's about the same thing. Like, it's not a big deal to me. And so I'm going to go to a new comment, which says silencing opposing views is an immediate loss. It really depends on what those views are. April, I don't know if you've been watching. If you have, see, here we go. Forever Green also says, imagine being annoyed by someone just being themselves. This is what we're looking at. To never evolve would be the true fighting reality. Agreed. Thank you so much for that, Forever Green. By the way, go and find her because she's an amazing pianist too. Super good. So silencing opposing views is not an immediate loss if it's something that isn't contributing to it. Like, I'm more than happy to talk about all kinds of things, like here's somebody who goes, are you a man because you look okay like the color of your hair? No, I'm not a man. Thank you, Jack. That's an actual question. That's not a view that needs to be silenced, but a view that does need to be silenced. By the way, hello, Ava. What does need to be silenced is when people are just like, listen, I just want to come into your live stream and I want to distract people. I want to keep you from doing what you're here to do. That's it. That's mean. It's just being mean. Silencing meanness is not bad. So there you go. All right, we got Emma back here. Thank you, Fugu, saying memes and shitpost aside. I appreciate the scientific approach. Yeah. April, here's the thing. We don't call everything abuse. I want you to, if you could scroll back, I'm curious, April, if you had seen some of the things that, somebody came in with literally like 5 to 7 different accounts posting the same thing that called me mean names. Is that not abuse? By calling this out, by saying, here's somebody saying mean things to me, that makes me an abuser? I don't even understand you. I don't know if you understand yourself. All right, here we go. So now I got to figure out why I was getting an echo. Give me one quick second. Emma. No, that's muted. That's muted. Well, let's see what happens. I'm still getting an echo. I don't know why. Oh, I can do this. All right, Emma, I'm going to are you ready to come in now? Let me know when you're ready. And, all right, here we go. Let's bring in Emma here. I'm going to tell you to be nice. Oh, the other thing I have to do is actually make this Emma, because right now it's set for Jasmine Vine. Whoops. Okay. Hello, Emma. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I am doing okay. I want to tell everybody first of all. So Emma and I met on one of these, one of these live streams, and she reached out to me and just said, let's talk about, let's talk about, being who we are. And so I want to first of all just absolutely honor you for your courage to come on here, because I'm going to tell you, you can see it's a little bit ugly at the moment. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Okay. I'd love to ask you. Here we go. See, Forever Green is now saying use the mute button as needed. Absolutely. Frybird says hello to you. So I'd love to ask you this question first, Emma. So I know you have a group of friends as well, and you're talking amongst yourselves about gender. Can you just
Yeah,
tell us like how do you guys think about it? How do you all consider it?
it's I don't want to say it's a weird thing, because if I say it's a weird thing, then that kind of comes off as mean or rude.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you, but uh-oh, did I lose you? Hi, Erica. Oh dang, I think maybe Emma froze. Um, so this is interesting. While I'm waiting for Emma here. Hi, Stacy. Dr. Stacy's here. Hello. While I'm waiting for Emma to come back, Sir Jacob is saying brainwashing. First of all, I somewhat doubt you're actually, knighted, but just a guess. Brainwashing. I think if you listened, Emma reached out to me. Like, I didn't do anything here. I'm actually providing a forum for Emma to talk. I don't know what kind of brainwashing you're thinking about, Sir Jacob, but whatever it is, that is absolutely not it. Ryan here has brought up has mentioned grooming. And once again, I think I'm going to have to say, guess what, people? I am not the one who reached out to Emma. She reached out to me. There was something Raven in the Moon. There was also Raven in the Moon. Where did I see it? Here we go. Trans is a real thing. You don't like it, don't look at it. Not that you could even tell the difference with most of us. You know what's funny? I love when I see somebody, somebody says, oh my gosh, you can always tell, you can always tell, you can always tell. My whole channel is filled up with things that say transgender, transgender this, transgender that. I don't even remember what my okay, so this one doesn't actually say transgender on it. But I have people who come in here and go, oh, you're so obviously transgender, which is nowhere near my experience in the real world. Pretty much every place I go, nobody has any idea or nobody cares. And so here's one of the points. So thank you so much, Raven and the Moon. By the way, I just love the Raven and the Moon. I mentioned the moon earlier today with my moon shirt here. Every bully without exception is a coward. Yeah, totally. Aquarius asks, am I a liberal? I have no idea how you define that, so let's go. Let's talk about this. Okay, let's assume a trans person is automatically mentally ill, like some are saying here. Isn't it bad to make fun of an ill person or to insult them? Not very Christian of y'all. I mean, that's a great point. Like that's a great point. When if you see somebody walking down the street, right, and I'm sure you've seen these people walking down the street and they're talking to themselves, and you go, "Oh, I'm sorry for that person." What you should do is have some compassion and see if you can help the person, etc. but you're just going to come in and thump on me? By the way, here's a question in it. This person didn't know. Generic YouTube user had no idea. So, this is interesting. There's nothing wrong with being gay and gay or trans, but transgenderism and feminism are extreme, like racism. I don't know if Aquarius, you recognize that being gay is different from being feminist. I'm also going to tell you there is actually not, transgenderism implies like some sort of common belief system that we don't have. There's no transgenderism. You are transgender. You can also transition gender, but there's not a transgender like belief system. So thanks for that, but no. It's like I'm so glad you're gone. It's the goose, I guess, has recognized. Yes, there you go. I'm transgender. Isn't that awesome? Let's see. The Raven and oh my gosh. First of all, let me just give you a big ol'. The Raven in the Moon says she can only tell that I'm transgender because of the conversation I am having. Yeah, totally. Thank you so much. Anomaly Shadow Sire gives us a couple of flags here. You know, Angela says she's been trans 35 years, totally stealth. And then I also want to bring up, because look at how beautiful this is. I'm clocky as heck and proud of it. Here's the point. Like, we need to be who we are. Oh, so Raven in the Moon, you are transgender. That's awesome. Thank you for showing up. This is awesome. Clocky, I think what am I trying to say? Because I'm looking at a lot of other comments here. There's nothing wrong with that. Because there's nothing wrong with being who you are. And I'm disappointed in the world, I think, that we have to have something like this. Like, that's horrible. That we have to go, oh, this person is wrong because, they don't look the way I want them to. That's awful. The end. I don't, do you think I would have been a eunuch in the old days? I guess I'm a sling. Do you believe in protecting cis women? So first of all, would I have been a eunuch in the old days? I have no idea. For what it's worth, I'm not exactly completely familiar with why eunuchs existed. One of the things I remember them being, it was like a guard to harems. Harems not typically, all that affirming. So I don't think I would, because I think I would put myself, not even I think, I am a feminist. So, do I believe in protecting cis women? I absolutely do. 100 effing %. There are people out there right now who are predators of women, and we need to find those people. Absolutely, overwhelmingly cis het white men. Find those people. They're in our government now, and take them out. Take them out of the government, put them into jail. Done. Thank you for the question there, Bad Gaming. I'm not transgender. Wow. Azriel, the Avenging Angel, can also diagnose over the live stream. Like, that's impressive, bro. Well, I don't know. You're an angel, so that's impressive. Angels were supposed to be ungendered, so that's impressive, I'm not accepting my true self. What is my true self? Why are you capable of knowing my true self, but I am not? Fascinating question, isn't it? The Avenging Angel going out there. My European mind can't comprehend the "are you a liberal" question. Me neither. I don't, what's that even, what are you trying to do with that? I have no idea. Azriel de la Cruz, once again, the Avenging Angel says there are only two genders. It is not a spectrum. You cannot become the opposite gender. You have conflated, unfortunately, gender with sex. Sex, which is both of these are biological concepts, but biology is something that you can determine, with one simple test. Gender, however, is not like that. So there you go. I don't, Oh, actually, look, oh my gosh, I'm in agreement with you. There's no physical way you can transition into the opposite sex. I'm pretty confident that we have not seen like an actual transplanted uterus and ovaries, fallopian tubes, the whole shebang. Sex, however, implies contributing a particular gamete to an act of reproduction. So when you're going to say there's wherever it might have gone, who even knows? But that's different from everything that it takes to get up to that act of reproduction, which is predominantly what gender is. Here we go. Erica says in the real world, she's never clocked. True, 99% of the time, she doesn't wear makeup, dress super femme. Let me go past something. Boy, Azriel has really just gone nuts. Here's the thing. You cannot become something you are not. And here's the thing, Azriel. You must not be able to become an interesting. Let's see. Wow, Bad Gaming says I'm cool in my book. Thank you, my friend. I think I love that. Charles, is this a transgender person? Yes, it is. I don't know. Russ Rose, this has been a couple of minutes. I hope you're still here. And I want to say thank you for this, Russ Rose. Here's Frybird wants to ask, by the way, Azriel, do you have good vision? Do you have expensive glasses? Or is this something that you've changed in your life there? Well, he's the avenging angel. Don't angels have good vision? I don't know. Hello, Brett K. Christian here says, Christian here, thank you for creating a safe space for trans people and for standing up for basic human rights. I think I'm going to say you're welcome. I don't know what else to say on that. I don't understand why something like this is necessary, period. Like, I don't know why we would have to have these sorts of conversations. And Anomaly Shadow Sire says, I am a very beautiful woman. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me see. What else do we have? Here we go. Oh gosh, the Jacobite. Okay, so Angela says we've all been clocked. Yeah, when we first start. Yeah, I mean, it'll happen, and it probably will continue to happen. JP here apparently has never taken a genetics class. I'm going to say something first, JP, and this is not me trying to pull credentials on you. My actual background is in molecular biology, specifically genetics, and you're wrong. It doesn't make a difference whether you have XXXY. It makes a difference if you have the SRY gene, typically located on the Y chromosome of chromosome 23, chromosome pair 23, but not always. In fact, we've actually observed it move not just to the X chromosome, but also to allosomes. So that's chromosomes 1 through 22. So you're completely wrong. And even if you're going to say, well, that's basic science, I would agree with you, except that was actually like third-year molecular biology curriculum for me when I took it. And maybe that's basic, maybe. Let me see. I love me some bigot hunting. Yeah, see, this is inaccurate. It's not basic biology. Hogs by 94 has already invoked. It's basic biology. All right, let's talk about basic biology, Hogs by 94. Once again, I've got an actual background in molecular biology, and I'm telling you, you're wrong. I knew that 30 years ago when I was taking these classes. Isn't that fun? You've been wrong for 30 years already. Frybird says she blindeth me with science. I think actually that's the way Azriel probably talks. There you go. Conservative Danker asks, am I a man? I am not. Thank you. I appreciate you asking. I am a woman. Here we go. Fugu. Wow, these are coming fast and hot and heavy, aren't they? There are some far-right guys in my university. So Fugu studied history, which attracts far-righters for some reason. Wow. I'm curious why that would be. I don't know. One of them was exposed as being into transgender porn. It's an amazing classic hypocrisy, right? It's very, very amazing hypocrisy. Let me see. We've got Dao Fang another psychologist who has actually diagnosed me over the internet. Like, it's pretty impressive. Once again, all of you need to get together, maybe travel the country, and also guess numbers. I guess, I don't know. Like, when somebody goes, give me a number between 1 and 10, Dao Feng will be like 6. And they'll go, oh my God, you're like Karnak the Magnificent. So thank you, Dao Feng, for giving me nothing. I'm just going to pop this up because really? Very accurate, kids. So you're going, so, sorry, but I've got to laugh just a moment because it's like, you are going to go with an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie about a kindergarten class, and you're going to say, this right here, this proves wrong. This person with a molecular biology background. I mean, it would be funny if it weren't so ludicrous. Dao Feng, guess what? I did not say you could. But chromosomes do not always define sex, first of all. And chromosomes do not define gender. I have already stated you cannot change your sex specifically, but you can certainly change your gender. And chromosomes are not everything. And you're going to take this from somebody who studied as a geneticist. So have fun with that. Let's see. 5-year-old, oh boy. 5-year-old actor has more sense than any lib. Lovely. Okay, man. Wrong. Canadian Grouch. Here we go. Do you know what? That's it. I guess it's time to shut down the entire thing. Forget it. I'm all done. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go rethink my life decisions because Canadian Grouch has just said, wrong. Are you for reals? You're not even like making jokes. It's not even like trying here. And yes, I studied this because clearly you did not. So there you go. Purple hair is the easiest tell. It's the easiest tell that I'm pretty dang cool. Right? So thank you. I appreciate that, Joshua Santos. Frybird, no, we got one. We do have one. Let me see. What do we got here? Oof. So Anomaly Shadowsire says, they know somebody who is intersex, and she is very upset when people bring up the only two genders things because that includes him. It kind of does. The idea about, when somebody says there's only two sexes, it's because ultimately what they want to do is make a political opinion that's based on that. We've got, 6 or 8 people, I guarantee, 6 or 8 people now who have already said that they totally know all about science because here you go, you get something that came from kindergarten cops, but there's a reason why they want to do that. And ultimately what it is, one second, I'm going to star something so I get back to it. The reason why they do that is because they want to do something that's going to deflect blame. Because here's the thing, we're going to have people in here who are going to say, I've already gotten grooming, I've also gotten that I'm gay, there's various other things. They have yet to bring up that I'm harming children in particular. They have yet to bring up that I'm going into restrooms so that I can assault women. But here's the great thing. They use these things so that they can continue to write executive orders and everything else so that they can deflect the blame away from them. 2 out of 3, okay? 2 out of 3 sexual assaults occur in the home. That's not people like me going into the bathroom to pee. In the home, it's domestic abuse. And do you know who's doing that? Overwhelmingly, once again, cis-het white fucking men. These same people who are going to yell at me right now saying, oh my gosh, look at you, you're doing such a horrible thing. You dyed your hair purple and now, the life, everything's going to die. And no, what's wrong in this world is that there are men who think it's okay to prey on other people who want to, come into my live stream and yell at me because what? Did you grow up with a small penis and now you've got to figure out some way to make yourself feel better? Fuck you all. I mean, Jesus, really? That's the best you got? Please. Frybird has brought up. She learned science from watching the Teletubbies. We are all made of tubby custard. That's about as good as some of these other people who are saying here. Sure, so Christine asks, what's the purple... Oops, wrong side. What's the purple Pocland picture behind me for? Thank you. Christine also says my purple hair is cool. So this right here, so the Purple Pocland is a company ultimately that I started. Originally it was just because I was writing content. I was writing scientific and philosophical content. I ended up branching off into podcasts. I ended up branching off obviously into live streams because here we are. And this particular image comes from, I'm going to tell the story here. It's going to be a fun story. I hope so. The story goes that there's a young adults series of books called Warrior Cats. All right, so Warrior Cats. When in the book series, there is a cat named Rusty, and Rusty at some point has to decide: does he want to be true to himself, or does he want to live a life of luxury, like as a kitty pet? This is a much longer story, but I'm trying to condense it as much as possible. Rusty's path through ultimately becoming a clan cat is what it's called. These are clans, cat clans in the forest. Rusty's path goes from being called Fire Paw, and then Fire Heart, and ultimately Fire Star when he becomes a leader of a community. And if you see this here, that was the intent of it. So there are paws here that ultimately go up. Oh, it's hard to do with my finger. That go up into the transition into stars. And so that's what the Purple Paw Clan is intended to do. You have each of us grows up. Each of us is born, not necessarily being capable of fighting for each other. And at some point, maybe we become leaders. And so that's my whole point with that. That's where the logo comes from. So it's kind of a fun one. All right, let me see what we got here. I'm not even going to bother with this. I actually see, Butt Fuzz says, nice to see a confident trans woman. Thank you so much. I might have gotten a little bit, riled up a moment here. The Purple Paw Clan looks like a big tent. All right, Emma, do you want to come back? Oh, dang. Oh, are you still here? Oh my goodness. Unmute request. Okay. So Christine, there's a whole lot more. Check out Warrior Cats. That first book alone, I'm serious. It was I've written 2 articles about this. One about getting a name and one about deciding whether or not I was going to transition. And believe it or not, this young adult book series was just very, very formative to me. It's a tremendous transgender allegory, a phenomenal transgender allegory. So, let's see. Tanya says, did cis men discover the advances in gender science and teach me? Or do they also disagree? I'm not really sure how to answer this question. Did cis men discover the advances? I guess I have no idea what sort of gender some of these people were. But some of this, if you look at, if you go back to, even Linnaeus, who started categorizing species, this is where we start gaining the idea of sex and gender. And this is hundreds of years ago, right? This was not 1991 when Judith Butler, released a book. So anyway, I do not know if they would agree with me. Linnaeus knew absolutely the difference between sex and gender. All right. Why don't haters just get a hobby? I don't get it either. Thank you, Kay. That's a good point. Emma, I'm bringing you on in 1 sec. How do you get so preoccupied with something you oppose? I wish I understood that too. Thank you so much. What a phenomenal point. They're also really, I've had at least 3 or 4 people ask if I have a penis. And I don't know, was that a come on? Was that, I mean, I might be a little bit like flattered. I don't know. I'm unsure. Anyway, here's the thing. Young Band Nation says, am I a dude? No. All right. Ready, Emma? We'll give it a go. Are you ready? Okay, I think she's typing. Let's see. Was I born with a penis and balls? What does that do? Because here's the point. There's an intersex condition. I'm actually going to mess it up now. 5 alpha. I forget. It actually, there's an enzyme that turns testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, and it's dihydrotestosterone that actually does a lot of the masculinization. So most of the people who have that one genetic, it's a genetic condition, genetic characteristic, are assigned female at birth because they don't have descended testicles into penis. So, but that might likely also be an XY genotype. And so I guess there's a question there. You're trying to conflate the two, and I guess I'm not really sure where you wanted to go with that. So there you go. Frybird says she has the 5 alpha I forgot enzyme. It's totally true. So here's a good question. Look at this person even said it. I promise you we can always tell no matter how well you think you pass in your delusional mind. Amazing. Really? You're wrong. Here we go. Transphobic people tend to think about people being trans more than actual trans people. I think that's true. Oh, thank you. 5 alpha reductase deficiency. For the life of me, I was like, oh gosh, don't. Yeah, 5 alpha reductase deficiency. So it makes the 5 alpha reductase enzyme. There you go. 5 alpha reductase. And there you go. Let me see. So Emma, are you ready? I think maybe are you ready now? Do you want me to bring you on, Emma? Okay, here we go. We're going to bring Emma back on. Hello. All right, we're back.
Yeah.
All right, so you were talking originally. How does your group of friends, how do you see like gender? Oops, are you hearing me okay? Oh my goodness, I think we just crashed again. Dang. All right. I will go back just to this. Oh, no, wait. Okay, so are you okay?
It's rude. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Do you hear me okay?
Dang it.
Shoot. All right. I'm gonna go back to back to me alone. I do hear you, yes. I'm hearing you, yes. So here we go. Let me see. What an interesting question. Am I trying to groom? So first of all, Emma uses she, her pronouns. So get that the fuck right, all right? Am I trying to groom her? No. What I'm doing is I'm talking to kids because there are people in the world today who very obviously don't understand the type of people we are. And so this is what I'm trying to do. Here we go. Thank you, Tanya. Tanya brings up Linnaeus. Linnaeus looked at things and classified them based on characteristics and behavior. How would we see someone who's put in the wrong gender category? So one of the big things that Linnaeus did, and pre-Linnaeus for what it's worth, is we recognize there are 2 categories of reproduction. One being asexual reproduction, right, where it takes only one organism to create offspring. And then sexual reproduction, where it takes at least 2 parents to create offspring. Right? So from that we realized, okay, there's a distinction between asexual and sexual. Sexual reproduction, we recognized at some point that there are bits of schmutz that combine in order to make offspring, to make progeny. Those bits of schmutz were called gametes, and it's not always 2. There are a handful of species that have 3 gametes or more, more than two gametes in the in order to reproduce. But here's the thing: when you look at sex, when you look at species, when they reproduce, there are some species that start off making one gamete and are capable of making another gamete later on in life. And yes, Footer, okay, the medical term schmutz. That's my medical term. So they change the gamete that they make. There are also there are many species actually that can make both gametes at the same time, and actually change the gamete that they make multiple times during a spawning season. Usually there are a lot of fish that are like that, which Frybert says itchy, right? So they're fishes. So as a result, we had to come up with a new way of describing something that didn't depend on, first of all, genitalia or the gametes produced. Because if you can produce them both, what are you? What is the sex? There is no... Oh, so Benji Bongo brings up the point, but humans are not fish. No, but guess what, Benji Bongo? Humans are part of nature. And you cannot have a definition that's based on one species. This is not how science works. Benji, I don't know if you're a scientist. I actually continue to bring up that I have a molecular biology background. And if you want to tell me humans are not fish, I'm going to say, boy, I'm so glad you've recognized your species, because, you must be typing on a phone or something, and isn't that great that, you can do that? Yes, bananas are also part of nature. I'm not really sure where you're going with that one. But here's the point. When you have a definition, it has to apply to all species. Period. That's just the way it works. That's what science does. Science observes the universe and ends up making an entire, a theory that's based on all data, not the data that we choose to bring into our theory so that we can make political decisions based on that. So yeah, humans aren't fish, good point. But this is why we have 2 different words. Things like humans have 2 gametes. Okay. But not every species does. I kind of like this. Look at this. Mother Mary technically would have been asexual. And yes, there are some human cases. Parthenogenesis is what it's called. So it's really being able to fertilize your own gametes. Here's the thing too. We actually see that quite a bit in geckos. There's a species of geckos that exists in the Southwest, end of like California going into Nevada, I believe Arizona. There are quite a few species of gecko that they're all females, and they lay eggs and they're fertilized. And so there you go. And here you go, Rick Knight. I don't know, you seem like you've agreed with me and then made fun of me, and I'm not really sure. I'm going to pop this up because maybe I got you wrong. Science is ever evolving. It doesn't stand still on anything to fit ideological standing. That's exactly what I'm saying. Your ideology, your dangerous ideology, I happen to love saying that. Your dangerous ideology to say that there are only, men and women, and we can determine when there's going to be a man or a woman at conception, just contradicts every single aspect of science. So the end. Oh, thank you, Rick. So you're not making fun of me. That's an ideology. That is a dangerous ideology, because we can observe in science it's just not the case. At conception, there is no differentiation into reproductive parts at this point. So In Distress is saying not possible. I guess I'm not really sure. I think maybe that's what I was talking about. So that In Distress in USA, it's called not possible, presumably meaning that it's not possible to know whether somebody's going to have male or female reproductive parts at conception. Thank you, by the way, Frybert, for the gifts. I appreciate that. So there you go. Science is ever evolving. We didn't actually know about the SRY gene until about the 1980s. Like, think about that. The 1980s. 40 years ago. Only 40 years ago. Thank you, In Distress. It's interesting to think that our understanding of how humans create gametes, ultimately develop reproductive parts is only 40 years old. But it is at the same time 40 years old. And we should probably get over this idea that that it's not XXAY, or it's just XXXY. Sorry, I started stammering because there was something I pinned because I was going to go back to it. It was the Raven and the Moon as well, and I really wanted to see it too. I'm going back through all of these. I'm sorry. Well, Raven and the Moon, know that I saw you. You dropped another really good comment, and I've now. There you go. Let's see. This is partly true. So yeah, the differentiation occurs, later on, and it doesn't differentiate. It doesn't occur because, you know what? I'm going to go back to this Raven and the Moon. Give me one sec. If someone doesn't agree with you on everything I say, I get triggered. Do I? I do get triggered if somebody's going to throw false science at me. I will get triggered when somebody is going to call me names. I am going to get triggered if somebody's going to misgender me because they think it's funny. If they're going to call me, things that they think are funny. What triggers you to come into a live stream like this and do that? Like, is it any surprise that maybe I would get angry? Maybe I would be, passionate about this? I mean, I think you're trying to make a point that there's something wrong with me. But here's the thing. If somebody came in here and asks me like normal questions, like here's the thing too. I was about to bring up what the Raven and the Moon has said. We were going to talk about science. We weren't going to talk about whether or not I have genitalia. We weren't going to talk about whether or not I go into somebody's restroom and do things to them. I get triggered. Do you know that there are executive orders that make me essentially illegal? Wouldn't that bug you just a bit? Please. So anyway, here's the point. Raven and the Moon, you're not entirely wrong. If we, the way human development works is that the Y chromosome typically has the SRY gene on it. The SRY gene transcribes a protein called the SRY protein. Yeah, so well named. And the SRY protein actually irritates the mother into secreting testosterone. A human embryo requires testosterone in order to develop male reproductive parts. It will not develop male reproductive parts unless there is testosterone. And at the moment, the embryo has no way of creating testosterone. It has to be the mother that does that. If the mother cannot create testosterone, or if the embryo is insensitive to it, yeah, we end up with at least what appear to be female reproductive parts. So it's a good point. Right. We don't observe humans at conception to classify them, but yet we have executive orders that say that our definition of science should start with conception, which we don't do and we can't do in the end. So there you go. Tanya, I don't know. Well, here's an interesting question. There's no difference in when a child should be considered human. Jay Leonard, the considered human is really more of a genetic issue than anything, I suppose. I'm not even sure what this is supposed to be. I mean, your point was supposed to be that we can't tell when a child has reproductive parts. But what I said was that sex is defined by a gamete that gets contributed reproductive. And yes, you can do that. You can tell at reproduction whether you've contributed a sperm, an egg, or nothing. So I guess thanks. Tanya, if you can remind me, I got to tell you, how did anything change? Did we just discover it? Was it always 3? I'm sorry. I wish I knew what it was. Here you go. We discovered the SRY gene in the 1980s. Of course, it was there all along. It was our poor understanding, for what it's worth. Oh, Ariandria's here too. It was our poor understanding of biology that we didn't know that it was there. So there you go. Let's see. In science, how important is it that we know the mechanism? I think this is an exceptional question. think this is an exceptional question because I've actually done a live stream. I mean, not only am I a scientist, but I'm also very open to the idea that science doesn't know everything. And guess what? Because science doesn't know everything. There's a reason why science is considered a process instead of a collection of facts, because they go when we learn something new, it may contradict the theories that we come up with. We want to come up with theories to explain the world. Religion does this. Genesis is exactly, here's how the world was created. We want to explain the world. It's the same thing with, some of the things that you'll find in Exodus and Leviticus. There's a lot of biblical things. They're trying to explain the world. It's a cosmology, right? Science ultimately tries to make a cosmology. And here's the point. The point is that I don't think it is necessary for us to know the mechanism. It is necessary for us to know that we might be wrong. And if you're going to make policies, laws on, if you're going to make laws about people, then what you need to do is make sure that you make them based on, first of all, the most current science, because those executive orders are not. And then you also need to do it, you need to do it in a way that actually applies to everybody, because that's how law is supposed to work. All right, here we go. So thank you, Raven in the Moon. So you said something about late puberty and manhood. Oh, yes, that's it. Being broke before puberty at 13. I have heard some of this. And if Thistle were here, which she's not, unfortunately, she is working on a project, and she and I have talked about how you could use like prenatal hormone exposure to to predict whether or not somebody would be transgender or cisgender. She brought the whole thing up, and I was like, ooh, this is really interesting. And at the same time, I go, oh gosh, like how do you do that? Because you'd have to monitor hormone levels in utero across all of gestation. Then you'd have to have the kid be born. You'd have to make sure they don't know that you're observing them. Because by observing, you might actually change something. If you say, hey, are you at 3 years old, are you transgender? Are you cisgender? Now you've made them start thinking about gender. So you disrupt the system. So I think it would be kind of hard to do. But anyway, these are all super interesting questions. Personally, I don't believe there is only a biological reason for people being transgender. But that's a much longer conversation. Especially when I want to pop this up. Demon Goblin. Oh gosh, from now on, I think I'm just going to change, all of my social media. Forget about that whole Amethysta Herrick Ph.D. crap. All right, Frybird, see you soon. Forget about that Amethysta Herrick PhD crap. I'm just going to use a legal demon goblin. My gosh. What else do we have here? So the majority are getting fatigued at having to kowtow to minority interests. I am curious. I'm curious, like, how much kowtowing is being done. How much kowtowing is being done to the transgender community? Because I don't think much. What we're talking about ultimately is names and pronouns. Nobody's going to say that Donald Trump, that we should just call him like Lucy. Nobody's going to go along with that. He's got a name. He's going to use a name. Just respect the name that he uses. I have a name, and it's actually a legal name. All I'm asking is that you use my legal name. It's not a big deal, I think. Here you go, Tanya. Yes. Executive orders, that is a whole other thing. But the thing is that we use inaccurate science. Ultimately, it's inaccurate science to inform these executive orders. And that's partly why I'm doing these live streams. So I do want to, Benji Brongo, tells me I should read up on the Money Reimer case because apparently I have not. Thanks so much for bringing this up. And Margie says flat out, yeah, Reimer was not transgender, right? David Reimer originally, if you don't know this case here, by the way, David Reimer was getting a what do they call it? Oh, circumcision. Sorry, he's getting a circumcision. The person doing the circumcision was using a brand new like electric cauterizing circumciser thingy, and damaged the penis badly enough that the parents were like, oh, whoops, now what do we do? So John Money, who was credited as pretty much the first sexologist, although had very strange ideas, ultimately ended up somewhat discredited toward the end of his career. But as Margie says, brutal and cruel. So anyway, John Money says, well, that's fine. Just give the kid a vaginoplasty. No big deal. The kid will see a vagina and go, well, I'm a girl. And about 8 years old, when a lot of us start coming up with our identity, David Reimer says, gosh, I don't quite feel right with this. Like, what the heck? And his parents were like, oh, well, here's an interesting story. Turns out you weren't supposed to have that. And so David Reimer ends up transitioning back to present masculine, to present as a man. Benji Bongo has brought up that Reimer ended up killing himself. That is accurate. David Reimer ended up killing himself. He actually had a brother who killed himself about a year earlier. His brother didn't go through any of this, but there was obviously incidents of depression in the family. So Benji Bongo is trying to tell me here that David Reimer proves something, and that depression must mean something about who even knows. I'm not even going to bother trying to do that. That's ridiculous. Not going to try to make sense out of this. Pretty good looking demon goblin. I am the pretty illegal demon goblin. Oh my gosh. There you go. Oh, see, look at this. This is a great way. Margie says, Reimer suffered calamitous gender dysphoria. Absolutely. Early on, too, which is important. I got a cough. Hang on a sec. So Benji says all these doctors have one purpose, which is money. There are some. I won't kid you. There are definitely some. But here's the thing. Just because you have to go to a doctor in order to get treatment to transition gender doesn't mean that the reason that we went to the doctor in order to transition doesn't exist. I mean, those doctors also make money when you have COVID and you go there and can I get a vaccine? I mean, this is not even an argument. Let's see. A lot of doctors have done it. A lot. Really? Okay. A lot of transgender people have also lived totally and completely normal lives. Once we've transitioned, I'm one of them. Here we go. Tanya says they want to control people and have never needed science to do so. I disagree. It's really easy, I think, when you have somebody who has a complete, completely, somebody who has a completely indefensible political position, for them just to pull like something out of nothing. It's easy to make up something from like a random fact of human development and saying this is how come we need a law for yada yada yada. And here's the other thing. So Tanya, I don't know if you remember the Scopes monkey trial. We're actually the 100-year anniversary of the Scopes monkey trial in Tennessee. There was a guy whose name now escapes me, had actually not read anything about evolution when he pitched a law saying we want evolution to be outlawed here in Tennessee. And of course that went on. You had John Scopes, who actually taught it. The ACLU comes in, they try the whole shebang. It was a huge, neat thing. And the point is that they did need science, right? This Tennessee guy said, well, we see that this is science, but blah. we're all Christians here. We're gonna make a dang law. I'm Benji Bongo. Yeah, it's a story. What are you talking about? Everybody has a story. I don't even know what you're talking about. All right, let me see. I don't know if we're talking about this. What's weird is that I had a girlfriend before I transitioned back. Oh, are we talking about? Maybe we're talking about David Reimer. David Reimer actually got married. Ultimately, got married to a woman, and there were children. Like he helped care for children. So I guess go with that. The transition actually occurred pretty early on in David Reimer's life. Tanya, I agree with you. Trans people should not. Sorry, you're saying, should we be nervous and not trust scientists and doctors after all this? Well, we should be scared of our politicians, because it's politicians who make the laws. It's politicians who are trying to make laws based on poor science. I am actually a scientist, right? I mean, we can look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. How about that? Ooh, geez, I just got restricted for suicide. Dang it. Okay. Live visibility restricted. Oh my goodness. Gonna cough again. So Marjorie Taylor Greene says all kinds of things where she says, we know this science, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is not a scientist. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a politician, but she has gone, people listen to her. Some of the people here might be listening to her. We shouldn't be afraid of scientists, because a good scientist, is somebody willing to recognize when their argument might be incomplete, when their data set might be incomplete. I had a back and forth on YouTube over the past couple of weeks where somebody said, hey, here's my theory of sex. And I said, okay, except for this. And the person said, well, listen, I don't have any credentials, okay? Just so you know. And I said, I don't care about credentials. Let's talk about this. Here is some actual observations of science. And we went back and forth 3 or 4 times. And finally, the person goes, I don't know what's wrong with you. You continue to disagree with me. And I'm like, well, but the problem here is that you came here to teach me science when you've actually just said, I haven't studied this. But I did, however, listen to a couple of speeches by Richard Dawkins. And I'm like, well, I mean, like, that's wonderful. And yet, so here we go. Margie brings up WPATH. I'm actually a voting member of WPATH. I'm not saying that to say, look at how great I am, except really, look at how great I am. It is amazing. WPATH is all based on actual evidence, actual, like clinical evidence, like people who come in and get gender affirming care, and then we follow them up. It's awesome. So there you go. WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. Bo Jiden has said his by definition is a mental illness. No. Apparently you've never read a DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. Gender dysphoria is actually in the DSM, but the DSM also classifies an actual mental disorder, or a disorder, as something that causes dysfunction. So gender dysphoria is something that most humans experience. I would probably go to say all. So unless it becomes a dysfunction, then it is not something that actually even needs to be treated. So by definition, you're actually wrong. Sorry. Actually, I'm not that sorry. Fruit or Dare, I have no idea why my mod banned you while we were having a conversation. You have another. This must be Benji Bongo. You have another account that you're going to use to come into this. That's amazing. Here's a great point too. WPATH recommendations. So here's the thing. So Margie says any minor and gender affirming care requires parental consent. If you are going to conform to the WPATH recommendations, yes, You require parental consent, and the best you're going to get is puberty blockers up to the age of 18. When you've reached the age of consent. When you have reached that age of consent, then you can go on to do other things. But WPATH recommendations do not recommend anything further than that. Certainly not surgery. Benji Bongo's trying to say, yeah, but how come there are kids out there that get surgery? Because there are parents who consent to it. They give their consent. There was some sort of ridiculousness. I know Trump was bringing up, oh yeah, there's kids, they go off to junior high, a boy, and come home a girl. Oh my goodness, no. Do you know how hard it is to get gender-affirming surgery? It's really hard. I know because I got it. I know that. It's ridiculous. All right, what do we got? Yeah, parents abuse kids all the time. Very true. When parents are abusing children, they don't generally listen to the children and say, hey, I'm feeling badly about something. Can you help me work through it? I don't know if you're trying to equate child abuse with gender-affirming surgery, but NML, the government is for some reason pushing the trans agenda in schools, which in turn has convinced thousands of children they are trans when they are not, which harms them in multiple ways. Wow, boy, I wish I had a comma in there somewhere. The government is pushing the trans agenda. First of all, I saw something once, or I saw something recently. The trans agenda, it was the gay agenda, actually. And so it was like, it was a calendar, like a week. It was Monday, Tuesday, through whatever. Monday, gay. Tuesday, gay. Wednesday, gay. Thursday, gay. So anyway, the gay agenda. There was no transgender agenda. I'm not even sure. That is something that your politicians are telling you to try to get you not to listen to science. Try to get you to listen, try to keep you from listening to somebody like I am. Harms them in multiple ways, and in the multiple ways that you bring up, anyone who is actually trans should be angry at the agenda because they would know what it actually feels like to be trans. So hang on. There's a trans agenda that's being pushed to make people feel they're trans, but some people actually know what it's like to be trans. And are you saying we should not teach about it so that people who are trans don't find out? Because that seems something like something we should all be angry about. I'm not even sure where you're going with this. But here's the thing too. When we are transgender, we know what it feels like because we feel chronic gender dysphoria. And by telling somebody that there are multiple ways of expressing yourself that don't necessarily have to conform to social norms is good. You want children to look at the environment around them and decide decide who they are, because otherwise our society ends up stagnating. We would be in the same place that we were 70 years ago. And who knows, NML, maybe you're like, well, yeah, women should be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen making me a sandwich. Whatever. I should have whatever scientific credentials you doubt I have. You can't even write a sentence, and you're telling me I should have my scientific credentials revoked. Okay. I mean, I appreciate that. Presumably, you're a pretty important scientist. What does this have to do with offing yourself? It's a great question. I did bring up David Reimer, and there are some streaming platforms that actually transcribe something in real time and end up going, ooh, we're going to restrict you as a result, and it's fine. Let me see. What do we got here? Simon says, to me, you still seem like a guy. Fair enough. I suppose the boobs, the feminine look, I guess that's not enough for you. Simon says, apparently, you've got some sort of magical, mystical way of telling who somebody is. That's pretty impressive. Why should you go out of my way to recognize to recognize me as something that you can't see? Well, Simon says, here's the thing. I can't see that your name isn't actually Judy. I can't see Judy. I'm going to call you Judy. Your name might be Simon. It might be Simon, but I think you'll look like a Judy. So from now on, Simon, so Judy says here is telling me, why should Judy, she go out of her way to recognize me as something that she can't see, that Judy can't see? And I don't know if I've proved a point or not, Simon says, but the point is that whether or not you see something, because names are one, you also can't see whether or not I've got a vagina or a penis, which Fruit or Dare is just dying, just falling all over themselves with Kindergarten Cop here. You can't see those either. It would be very distressing, I think. Boy, I really should have gotten more water when I started this. I think it would be really distressing to walk around the world and see everybody, with just their genitalia hanging out. You can't see that, so why should you recognize that? What a great point. From now on, you are a girl, Trump is a girl, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a boy. I can't see their genitalia. They're going to have to prove something to me. There you go. Okay. And I think this really just proved your point there. Wow. All right, what else do we have here? Let me go down through a few. Here we go. So this is a great question. How long does it take for gender-affirming surgery? You're not being too rude, not weird at all. Sorry, I'm going on with other people's comments, but for me, so WPATH guidelines recommend, here's the WPATH, canon, recommend at least 1 year on hormone therapy. So that means if you are a minor, that would mean you have to get to 18 and then get on gender affirming care. By the way, hello, hey. So you have to get on HRT, do that for a year, and in the meantime, you can go and apply to places for surgery. Usually you have to be given a formal diagnosis by 2, sometimes 3, depending upon where you go for surgery, 2, sometimes 3 professionals, mental health professionals, that say, we've talked to this person, we've diagnosed this person, we believe that gender-affirming surgery is actually going to improve their quality of life. At that point, then you are eligible to get gender-affirming surgery. That's the canon. In reality, you're looking at as Margie says, you're gonna, it's gonna take you some time. First of all, to get to an endocrinologist who will prescribe HRT. It may take you some time to find a surgeon. You almost certainly are going to have to be in a waiting line for that. All told, for me, from like the day I put on my first estrogen patch to the day I got gender affirming surgery was 4 days longer than 2 years. But that's uncommon. I don't know if you need a lot of money. Ultimately, I had to go to Thailand to get it done, Emma, just to throw that out there. I had to travel halfway across the world. So insurance is not the way to do it. So unfortunately. As someone who grew up, so Anomaly Shadowsire, as someone who grew up in a very conservative household with my stepdad and biological mother and who is a part of the queer community, I can confirm that nobody forced me to be this way. No. We are 100% born this way. And the thing is, too, what kills me, too, is like if you were to ask somebody, there are people here who have never heard anything else that I've said. If you go up to somebody and you say, listen, what's your favorite vegetable? And they go, well, my favorite vegetable is broccoli. And you go, no, it's asparagus. They're going to go, no, I think I know this. I think I know my favorite vegetable. And the thing is, we're cool with believing that people can know their favorite vegetable, but we're not cool allowing people to know who they are. Otherwise, if you go, listen, I don't feel like I don't feel required for cis females. Christine, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean. But, so we're willing to let people know things like broccoli, but we're not willing to let them know whether they like skirts, whether they like, sandals instead of like boots? You know, what kind of, it's ridiculous. Thank you, Angela. So in the 90s in the UK, you had to dress as a female for 2 years. When I started looking into the process in 2001, yes, that was another thing. You had to live as your preferred gender for a year. Then you could get HRT. Then I think after 2 years, if I remember correctly, you were eligible for applying for gender affirming surgery. It was horrific. And you are lucky. And I'm going to do the same. I salute you for your pioneering experience. Yep. Wow. Purple hair, stupid bangs, nose rings. She's the reason why we lost the election. So one thing that's interesting, I wonder if anybody out there is still watching, but I was actually properly gendered here. I don't know. Does that mean that you did know that I'm transgender? Maybe they didn't know. And I'm not dumping on you so much. I mean, I don't know why we lost the election. You know, you might reach out to some of the other people, but if you're looking for a scapegoat, there's always somebody you can bring up. So thank you for scapegoating me. Let me see. What else do we have here? So here we go. So Emma, another great bit of experience. Genevieve, been in transition for 6 years and still waiting on the final surgery. So, and yes, this, here's an exceptional point, right? How then do we have somebody who goes to school a boy and comes home a girl? It is ridiculous. It is absolutely stupid. That is not happening anywhere. I had a joke somewhere where I was like, this kid must have was walking past like the corner, like you have like little strip mall sort of thing. You've got the gender affirming clinic in the strip mall, and kid was walking past and they yanked him in, and somehow were able to do all of the surgery and then boot the kid back out, and he's able to walk amazingly, despite the fact that I stayed in the hospital for a total of 9 nights. I mean, it's just stupid. I can't believe we still even talk about that. All right, what else do we have here? We got. I could go back through some of these. I'm not actually going to show one of these. There's something. I'm just going to read this. Here's somebody who says that the DSM is written by people who are hell-bent on destroying Western society. The fact that I'm using that as a legitimate argument debunks anything I have to say. Well, here's the thing. So this says Afro-Communist 94. You're not even still here because this was 10 minutes ago. And you moved on to dump on somebody else, I'm sure. The point here is that the DSM exists because we have Western society is based on pathologies. We have to say that we have a pathology in order to get some sort of treatment. And that really sucks, really, when you look at gender dysphoria. Because we have to say, yes, I have a dysfunction. I am experiencing dysfunction from gender dysphoria, which means you have to call yourself pathological in order to begin to affirm yourself. And, you can say, yeah, the DSM sucks. I don't disagree. Pathologies suck. Like, pathologizing the human experience sucks. Hey, Vesper, good to see you. I think it's ridiculous. So I don't disagree with you. Somebody else had brought up that there's a mental disorder, and I was saying, no, this is what the DSM says, because the guy was wrong. Period. So I'm not using the DSM as some sort of proof of anything. I'm using the DSM because that guy brought it up. All right. The order of operations we see girls take to become women isn't surgery and hormones, so going that route isn't observed as women. It might not meet the criteria. I'm afraid I'm going to need a little more explanation on that. Oops, wrong thing. Society doesn't think that some women are a pathology. Well, right. It's interesting. Right, Vesper? More about DSM. So some women are not a pathology, right? if you have somebody who is assigned female at birth, and they go, I'm going to keep my hair short, there are a lot of people who are going to look at that and go, ooh, well, that's weird. Tomboy, that's weird. So weird. What's going on with that? We do want to pathologize the human experience, I think, over and over. And unfortunately, Vesper has come back in when I'm talking about pathologizing the human experience. I'm so sorry. I swear I talk about other things. I believe very strongly. This is my own little platform here. I believe very strongly that all of us come into this life with a set of knowledge. I brought up the your favorite vegetable kind of thing, but we have a set of knowledge, and that set of knowledge ends up helping us understand our experience that we have, that actually occurs. So you go out into the world, you have your experiences, and they're all given flavor, given meaning. There we go. Sorry, all given meaning by this knowledge that we have. And one of those things that I knew was that I liked skirts over shorts. I knew that I liked nail polish. I knew that I liked, longer hair. I knew that I liked hair dye and eyes and lashes and things like that. I knew all these things. I still do. I didn't take these. See, Bohal says, I think tomboys are cute. Well, that's. I don't think these. I didn't pick all of these characteristics up because I became transgender. I don't think you become transgender. You are transgender, and then at some point you recognize it. And then at some point, if it hurts badly enough, then you start to do something with it, with a transition. It's two states. There's a state of being transgender and a state of doing gender transition. And but in order to do the doing, you have to admit that the being is a pathology, so that you can get through so you can get to treatment. It's the whole point. So, all right, here we go, because this is cool. How was I persuaded to be trans? As when I was young in the 60s, there was no internet or talk of trans, but I knew I was a trans woman. Right. Because here we go. Let me throw out my experience again, because sometimes people ask me this. They're like, well, when did you become transgender? I became aware that I was being treated differently than I knew I was by the time I was 4 or 5 years old, easily. By the time I was about 8 years old, I definitely was aware that people were looking at me in ways that I'm like, well, this doesn't even fit me. Certainly by about 12, I was, certainly by the time I was 12, I knew I was going to transition gender at some point. Like I was actually going to go and get surgery. And I remember this because I actually I've brought this up a bunch of times, but I actually saw a joke about a Swedish vacation, something about a Swedish vacation. The idea that you could go to Sweden and, a man and come back a woman. And I was like, sweet, I'm going to go do that. At 12 in 1982. Like, that's probable, right? Happens all the time. So I knew by 12. Now it did take, and by the time I was 12, I knew very well that I liked long hair and funky hair colors and eyes and makeup and nails. I took a drink and then I just choked myself on it. Well done. So I knew all of this 40 years. 40 years? I got a cough again. My goodness. I knew all of this 40 years before I ever transitioned gender. And I expressed it at certain times in my life. When I was an undergraduate, I let my hair grow out long. It was probably, bra strap length, I guess, is the way I'd put it now. And it was, blonde. I lived in Southern California, so it was all, this pretty gold color. When I was in graduate school, I dyed my hair blue black. I used to wear a lot of lavish eyeliner because that's it's the law when you're a goth. You have to do that or they come after you. This is partly why I'm wearing black nail polish now for Halloween. So I was expressing it during my life. Now I'm just expressing it completely. I don't stop. Now I just don't stop. But yeah, it's not like we become something, and it's not like you have somebody, big apparently doesn't. I'd like to buy a vowel, big. It's not like that this is something that's imposed upon us. That like somebody can come up to us and go, "Hey, did you ever think you might be a girl?" And we go, "Maybe," and that's it. No, ridiculous. Margie has an excellent point too, because I think this helps. I think this is a significant significant experience we have to feel. Sorry about this. So she says she had to experience gender dysphoria before gender euphoria before she really understood. And I agree. This probably was the same with me. And I think that's the same with every human ever. We end up figuring out how we want to express ourselves because we try something and we go, ew, or we go, woo. When I dressed up as a girl as early as like 8 years old, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel much better. There we go. So there you go. I am going to show this because I have to. Khalid, thank you for calling me beautiful. I truly appreciate that. I love that. Yeah, see, so here we go. Angie says she was the same when she was 4. She knew when she was 4 and went out dressed in her teenage years. Yeah, I mean, okay. Liking all those things is not a problem. Agreed. It's social norms that would say, well, a boy isn't allowed to like hair or makeup. A boy is not allowed to know these things. Women can do it because, again, that's a social norm. Women are allowed to. It is an interesting point. I've had people say to me, because I guess I didn't really explain much of what I do. I have helped people through gender transitions. I got a whole network for hormones, by the way, hormones and surgery. I actually am a registered agent to represent gender affirming surgery. Anyway, I've had people say to me, I wish I could have gone through, I wish I could have had the when I was 13 years old, started learning how to do makeup, because now I can't. And it's like, I don't agree. The only difference between a 13-year-old girl and ultimately, 52-year-old girl learning how to do makeup is that there were more eyes on me. You look at a 13-year-old girl, and if you go, oh my gosh, terrible eyeliner, you just kind of go, well, she's young. That's awful. But she'll learn. Just practice. Just keep practicing. You'll get eyeshadow too. Don't worry about it. You'll get there. You look at that on a 52-year-old girl, and you go, what happened to you? Oh my goodness. So, and I agree. Tanya says it's not that you can always learn. Agreed. It's just, it's very stressful for us. And Vesper, give me 1 second. I'm about to do that. I'm about to talk about, use your comments. Sorry. You can't always learn. The thing is that we feel these social norms oh so keenly. And when somebody looks at us and goes, ooh, bad makeup, we go, ooh, that's it. Tanya's 40 and can't do makeup. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, Emma, geez. You got lots of years. You got lots of years. By the way, by the time I was your age, I was playing with makeup. I had sisters who would have been, let me see, I have a sister who's 5 years older, not quite 5 years older. And so I was playing with her makeup by the time I was your age easily. Okay, so Vesper here says, confirms kind of what I said, which is it just always was or is, and then we figure it out. Yeah. So like Vesper says she knew when she took her sister's clothes. Yeah, disconnect with your body started then. And then she had to figure out other disconnects like weight before it resurfaced. Yeah. You know what's fascinating? It's really often, yes, I guess that's the word I want to use. A lot of transgender women have eating disorders when we're young, but nobody's going, like, if you're a 12-year-old girl and somebody goes, wow, you seem to have an eating disorder, like they'll address that. If you're a 12-year-old transgender girl, nobody cares. They're like, well, girls have eating disorders, not transgender girls. And yet it is very frequent for us to have it's very frequent for us to have eating disorders. So what do I 52 years old, use Homer Simpson's makeup gun. I mean, I think that's valid. For what it's worth, Emma, when I was I flashed over there. When I was I don't know, early 20s, I just went out and bought like a whole crap ton of makeup because it was, it was like, look, I'm gothic, I'm going to do whatever I can. And I just spent hours in my bathroom just playing with makeup. And so I did a lot in my 20s, and then by 28 I was out of graduate school and I was in industry. Believe it or not, in aerospace they don't look really kindly on people like me wearing makeup when I'm going to work. So so I didn't really get back to it until I was in my 50s. And the point I was going toward here is that when I began transition, I actually hired a makeup artist. And I just said, look at my face and tell me what you would do. Tell me what you would do. Now, unfortunately, he also said, well, I said, what models did you like, when you looked at makeup? And I was like, oh, I named a couple of, 1980s, 1990s models. Claudia Schiffer in particular. So I would have adored being Claudia Schiffer. I think almost anybody in the 80s would have adored being Claudia Schiffer. But so I said, oh, let me do this. So he gave me a lot of 80s makeup tips that I would use him, and I would go, oh my gosh, I look like I'm 52 years old. And so then so here we go. This is what where I'm going to go back to what Tanya says here, which is that, yeah, it's a lifelong learning process. And that was going to be my story, is that like the guy taught me a bunch of things and said, oh, here's some color theory. And I got a great book about color theory. Wish I could read. It's Color Theory of Stage Makeup, I think it's called. I'd have to find that book. I'm not seeing it on my bookshelf there. But anyway, so I learned some color theory, which doesn't take much. I learned some, you could get into contouring, you could get into highlighting. Really what I did is I played around long enough that I was like, okay, I'd be comfortable leaving the house like this. And I think that's about all I cared about. Because nobody looks perfect 100% of the time. And if you think you do, I'm going to go back to what Margie said like an hour and a half ago. She's clocky and she's proud. We all are. God, there are women, I'm not going to call you out in particular, Tanya, but there are some people who will go out without makeup and somebody's going to look at them and go, whoa, what happened to you? Gosh, the first time that was Pamela Anderson. She went to like the Academy Awards or something without makeup, right? And there were people going, oh, it's so courageous. She's so brave. Look at how ugly she looks. That's so brave. No. She looks like Pamela Anderson. She continues to look like Pamela Anderson. She looked like Pamela Anderson without makeup. And anyway, people dumped on her. And I was like, you all suck. But I've always kind of loved Pamela Anderson. She's always been fun. Let me see. So, yeah, Genevieve says, seriously, like, plan one. I think you will love it. Having somebody be able to look at somebody who knows. I don't know about Sephora if they are always good at this, but if you have somebody who knows a lot about makeup and the way faces are, and you can learn so much in like an hour just watching somebody. Oh, actually, right, your wife did take you. Did your makeup several times? Okay, sorry, this is what I read. One of the what was I just about to say? When I did a photo shoot, so I did a photo shoot in April of this year. And it was so amazing to have. This is a professional makeup artist on my face at the moment and going, here's what I'm doing, telling me what she's doing. And I was just like, uh-huh. And then do you do this? And then what? And then what? And, so I learned so much more right there, too. See, Vesper says she uses a bit of lip gloss and that's it. I mean, I love that. I kind of want eyeliner and lashes, in order to go out. I don't know how comfortable I would ever be doing a live stream without makeup, but thank you, Angela. See, here's another one. Makeup she did in the 80s is different to her style nowadays. Same, yeah. Changes over time and your age. I ended up finding out too, because I thought, listen, I'm old, right? I'm old. I'm younger than Angela, but that's not the point. Maybe we're both old, Angela. I don't think so, but you're totally young, but I'm old. And I put on full makeup, everything that I learned, and I looked at myself and I was like, but this is what makes me look old. Is actually putting all of it. It wasn't even just the 80s makeup. Even when I sort of switched over, when I was like, I got to go back to my liquid eyeliner and everything. I don't know. I was, even when I did that, I was like, I look old if I put all the schmutz on. And so I figured out I needed to strip it back and strip it back. So I think that's something too. Like, make up your whole face and then start stripping it back. What's most necessary? So, Emma asks, how do I know all of your names? How do I remember them? I have no idea. I'm going to tell you. I think I've just done this long enough now that some people I remember and some people I don't. Oh, see, look, I just said this. You said this 3 minutes ago. Jeez, I should probably read comments a little better. Yeah, ramp it back. So contouring. It's interesting because I have seen people go, oh my gosh, I'm really going to need surgery. And I go, well, have you tried just contour? And by the way, when somebody wants facial feminization surgery, and I'm not saying you shouldn't get it, but when you ask them that question, they go, I need FFS. And you go, well, have you tried contouring? They go, you know nothing about my life. What do you. Okay, I mean, it's cool. Because I'm sure I've done the same. So, somebody came in and called me a man and I went, you know nothing about my life. Anyway, contouring. I played around with it and I was like, oh yeah, look at that. It's very subtle. It's doing like contouring on the side of my nose because my nose is kind of a little bigger. Contouring and I actually really love the little highlighter on the tip of your nose. I just get a kick out of it. But, anyway, used a bunch of contouring, and then at some point I was like, I'm spending like an hour and a half doing makeup. And so I took all the contouring off and like I said, stripped it as far back as I could and looked in the mirror and said, what I look like is me. And that was about all I cared about. I mean, and I get it, I don't have like a square kind of face. I mean, I get it. There are things that maybe I don't have to fight, but, I prefer at this point looking at myself and going, there we go. That's awesome. Eyeliner whiskers are another winning tip. What do you mean? Oh boy, you know what? One thing that I totally know though, the color corrector. Like if you have dark facial hair, the color corrector is amazing. Oh my goodness. One of the best thing I ever saw. So, what do we got here? So you got your name. That was awesome. So wait, so you got your name before you realized you were transgender. That's fabulous. That's fabulous. I'm going to tell you, I when I was a kid, so I've had like a few, putting on kitty whiskers with eyeliner. Yes, calling back. It's a good callback. It's funny. I was looking at the last newsletter that I put out, which apparently was August, and I didn't quite realize that. But and the picture on that newsletter was me with the whiskers on it. I didn't even remember using that. I was like, where'd that come from? And I was like, oh boy, Amy, the things you do. Anyway, by the time I was probably 8, there was somebody, Rebecca Pollux, I think was her name. She had the most amazing blonde hair. I was just wanting to put my hands in, oh my gosh, feel that hair. When I grew older and let my hair grow out, I realized my hair was really similar, which was kind of nice. I love that. But I called myself Rebecca for the longest time in my head. in part because it kind of sounded like my dead name. And for some reason that was cool. I don't know. Now Amethyst is nowhere near to my dead name. But by the time I was probably like 8 years old. So, oh my gosh, that's true, Angela? Wow. See, I wasn't going to ask my mother for what it's worth. I wasn't going to ask my mother because my mother blames herself. I think that's the way I'll put it. She blames herself for being who I am. And I'm like, well, look, it's not you. It's me. But, yeah, Vesper says she had a name before she came out. So I was thinking about using this. So Rebecca, and then you fell into the name Vesper. Sort of the same. Like I was going to use Rebecca. This is when I was blonde. And then when I dyed my hair black, I went to Selena. Because Selena Kyle, right? That was Catwoman's name. You know, I was young. I don't know. Anyway, called myself Selena. And I was going to go with Rebecca Diana, because that was the name I was always going to use my whole life. Rebecca Diana Herrick. And then it didn't happen. So you were going to go. So Vesper said she was going to go with JC because it was kind of close to your given name. Why do we do that? I think that's interesting. Why do we go, you know what? I'll use something that's similar to my name. Like, you know, Philip and, you know, Philippa or something. Why do we do that? I don't know. I don't think, like, I wanted a clean break. Although for what it's worth, I wanted a clean break in part because I just didn't want to be completely associated with my mother and father anymore. My father can't hear this anymore. My mother's probably not listening to this, but that was it. I wondered if we were going to play Cosmic Wheel, and we didn't. Ooh, wait a minute. Yeah, see, you've mentioned this too, Angela. Angela says she always, her mother always knew. Angela's mother always said before she, you know what I'm saying, that her mother knew that she was transgender. So, anyway, I think that's cool. I would love to have had parents who were that, you know, who were that accepting, and I'm so happy for you for that. Like that's awesome. I'm glad that there are some of us who get that. Margie, I think this is great. Because obviously I'm fading fast. Oh, there we go. So Vesper took her. Oh, see. Hang on, I've got to read a few things here. So Vesper says she was going to go. Diana was going to be your middle name. See, Diana would have come from. Okay, your grandmother was Diane. I would have used Diana because of Wonder Woman. Rebecca Wonder Woman Herrick. That's the Rebecca Diana. Then Vesper says she took Vesper because of a poem from her mom. So her mom and sister were dawn and sunshine, and Vesper is the evening star. I think that's beautiful. Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful, Vesper. Thank you. So Margie says she's happy we outlasted that cloudburst of haters. Truly phenomenal. Whew. At the top, I think we had 60 people or so. I mean, wow. Part of me, I did see morph of my legs, by the way. That part of me was like, wow, this'll be fun. And then part of me went, oh shit. There you go. So, all right. Well, it is now 7:04 for me. I just want to say thank you to Vesper and obviously Frybird. We had Tim who didn't say anything, but Christine in distress. You know, and of course Angela, Genevieve, Margie, and I think I said Angela, but I'll say Angela again. And Tanya, thank you so much, all of you. This has been and Emma. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing live stream. Even though we did have some, you know, people who maybe were not interested in having a real conversation. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate this. I love. I, I do read the comments even if I don't read them out loud. But I mentioned earlier I do this. It's partly a labor of love and partly because I want to mitigate what's happening to our community. And I'll just reiterate that if you want to be part of forming this new community, please reach out to me because clearly you can see we need it. There you go. So thank you, everybody. And I will see you Sunday. Yeah, I'll see you on Sunday. Bye. Talk to you soon.